I identify as a Cuban, a Puerto Rican, and an American because I grew up here my whole life, which makes my kitchen really interesting.
I'm Delia Colon, and this is The Zest. Citrus, seafood, Spanish flavor, and Southern charm. The Zest celebrates cuisine and community in the Sunshine State. Today, products that make celebrating your heritage in the kitchen a whole lot easier. If you're longing for a taste of home, but you find yourself ordering takeout again and again, no judgment, but this conversation is going to help you out. Get ready to meet Ciji Castro. She's the founder and executive chef of Domestic Gourmet. That's a food and lifestyle brand inspired by the Palm Harbor residents' Cuban and Puerto Rican roots. Domestic Gourmet's cooking oils, spices, and recipes are designed to make traditional family flavors fast and easy to enjoy. The products are a hit with Ciji's scores of social media followers, as well as readers of Forbes and Southern Living, which are just two of the many media outlets that have featured Domestic Gourmet. So whether you're juggling a hectic schedule or just craving a convenient taste of home, Ciji's products are designed to bring joy and tradition to your table without spending hours in the kitchen. Ciji visited our studios at WUSF Public Media in Tampa. In this conversation, the entrepreneur shares lessons that you can use both in the kitchen and in the world of business.
Ancestral Latin cooking is going out and buying the produce, chopping the onions, the garlic, the green peppers, your cilantro, your culantro, doing it all from scratch every night. Whereas what we're doing at Domestic Gourmet Foods is I'm doing all that for you, and then I'm dehydrating them fresh and mixing them for your convenience. So you can still have those nostalgic flavors when you're eating your dinner on a crazy busy weeknight. I live in Palm Harbor, and I have 3 kids and 2 cats and a dog and a husband, and it's busy, and there's after-school activities, and then for me, I'm either at the kitchen manufacturing, or I'm here, podcasts, or I'm cooking on daytime TV. And so it's busy and it's crazy. And I need to streamline those processes.
Okay, so you're basically running 2 empires, your home empire and your business.
Yeah.
Tell me about your business for people who are unfamiliar with Domestic Gourmet. What all does it entail?
So initially, Domestic Gourmet was easy recipes, right? Making, gourmet food from scratch, but in a way that you don't need to be classically trained to do. That was my initial starting point. And then I got into CPG, food manufacturing. And so now my flagship product is organic annatto oil. That is one of those things that is required for a lot of ancestral cooking in Puerto Rico, the Dominican Republic. It's also used in Asia. And actually, it's an international product. But in order to have it, you have to make it from scratch. And so I went to the University of North Carolina to get my certified foods manufacturing certification, which was so hard to do with 3 little kids. And I figured out that I could do it on a mass scale for people's convenience, right? It's also one of those things that, a lot of this ancestral cooking is oral history, right? It's passed down by either your grandmother or your aunt showing you how. And we're losing that in the younger generations who are now working or pursuing higher education or have different life goals than just being home cooking all day.
What is CPG?
Consumer packaged goods.
Oh, look at you. I'm learning already. Okay, so let's go through your journey. I would guess you are a Latina because to do a sound check, I asked you, what'd you have for breakfast? And you said café con leche.
Yeah.
That's such a Tampa Bay answer. Yeah. So where did you grow up? What is your background? What did you grow up eating?
So I am a first-generation Cuban-American. My mother came from Havana when she was little. I grew up right here. I was born at St. Joseph's, all-women's hospital, and I grew up in Pinellas County in a small fishing village called Ozona, and there's no place else I'd rather live. I love Tampa Bay.
What kind of things did you grow up eating?
I grew up eating a lot of Cuban food. Black beans, rice. My favorite is pita empanizado, which is palomilla, which is like a really thin steak that's breaded, fried, and then topped with like lime juice and onions. It's just amazing. And then I grew up eating a lot of empanadas from the food trucks at the softball fields, pasteles. So I had the best of both worlds, arroz con gandule on the Puerto Rican side, and then I had the white rice and black beans on the Cuban side. So I grew up eating really good.
Oh, wow. Okay, so your dad is Puerto Rican?
Biological father, yes.
Okay. Mm-hmm. Wow. What's your first language?
My first language is English. I learned Spanish in school. So, immigrating to this country is not easy for anyone. And learning this language comes with trials and tribulations and racism, right? Prejudices. And my mother didn't want that for us. So she did not speak Spanish in the home. She was like, you are American, we speak English here. But we were such a Cuban household, and it was important for me to not lose touch with my heritage. And also, aside from my mom and her sisters, nobody else spoke English. So I have my grandparents, I have my aunts and uncles, they all spoke Spanish. So in order to communicate with them, I took it upon myself and I started taking Spanish in 6th grade and I took it all through senior year in high school.
I think that's a pretty common story.
It is very common. And now, especially now being a part of the Tampa Bay Latin Chamber, I'm meeting women my age who are now trying to rewrite that history and teach our kids Spanish. And it's not something to be ashamed of, but it's something that we want to preserve and it's important to us.
Okay, that's good. I needed to hear that. I'm not Latina, but I also learned...
I was so surprised by that, by the way.
The last name really throws people off. Colon is my married name.
And same thing with Dalia.
Dalia. Yeah, in Spanish it could be Dalia Colon. And I do speak Spanish, so that only adds to the confusion. People think I'm Dominican or something. But I learned Spanish like you in middle and high school and then in college in Ohio. And I just always kept up with it. And then I married a Puerto Rican. But I need to double down on speaking Spanish to my kids. So this is a great reminder. Your Spanish is just so gorgeous.
Oh my gosh.
Just do the whole interview in Spanish.
It's only okay when I'm social. But if I get on TV, oh my gosh, there's such panic. I just did a Spanish interview and it was just cringe.
I doubt that. What do you love about being Cuban, Puerto Rican, Cuba Rican? How do you identify?
I identify as a Cuban, a Puerto Rican, and an American because I grew up here my whole life, which makes my kitchen really interesting. So, I'll make, camarones criollo, but I'll put it on top of grits. It's like my own style of shrimp and grits. But, I love the culture. I love the strong family bonds. I love the food. I love the music. And I love the parties.
Oh, yes. We love a party. Mm-hmm. Who taught you how to cook?
I've been really fortunate that I've had a lot of teachers in my life. One of my first teachers was my great aunt, Tia Lourdes, and she is still with me today. So my kids are super lucky to have their great aunt. So she's the first one who taught me all the basics of Cuban cuisine. There's the base of the sofrito, which is the green pepper, the garlic, the onions, the cumin. So she taught me my black beans. She taught me my carne con papa. And then my husband's aunt came into the fold and she taught me Puerto Rican cooking. She taught me how to do the pasteles. And then as I became the domestic gourmet and I did a Michelin guide tour here in Tampa, oh my gosh, that is when I got a crash course in, classically trained, chefs. Like I had a Michelin star chef come to my home. I taught her how to make acapurria and she taught me how to make a perfect foie gras, And it was just, I've been fortunate in the fact that I've had a lot of teachers take an interest in me and give me their time and lessons. And it's been, something that I'll continue to pay forward.
Yeah. And it sounds like you're a lifelong learner.
Oh my gosh. Am I ever?
So how did you become sort of empress over this domestic gourmet kingdom? Because a lot of people have done some of the things you've done, like learning to cook from people, maybe trying to get their product on a shelf, but you've taken it to a whole other level. I mean, you've been featured in Forbes. So how did that happen?
Tenacity. My husband calls me a pit bull. When I have an idea in my mind, I don't let go until I figure out how to make it happen. I'm a forever student. Like you said, I listen to audiobooks. I will take courses and I'll figure it out until I can, achieve that goal. And then when you do achieve that goal, then a new one grows.
That's incredible. All right. I feel like I'm almost talking to two different people, and I don't know if you feel that way, but I'm talking to like a chef and I'm talking to a businesswoman. How do you see yourself?
As both. The chef and the creativity comes really easy to me. I have always been incredibly creative. My biggest challenge has been morphing into the businesswoman and learning how to organize and learning the technical skills needed. So initially, I was everywhere I could be, burning myself out. Now, I'm having internal dialogues of like, what's the ROI of me going to whatever or participating in whatever? How is that going to convert into monetary income for the business? So, it has changed my way of thinking. And that has been a really hard learning curve for me. And I have my husband to thank for that because he's a CTO. So he is corporate, whereas I am not.
What's CTO?
Chief Technology Officer.
Thank you. See, I need all the cheat sheets with these acronyms. This is so good to hear because it's very flattering to be invited somewhere, to be invited onto a podcast or to be invited to speak to a group. But then you ask yourself, what's the ROI on this? Why am I doing this? Why am I driving across town, leaving my family? Is it worth it? What's been one of the biggest challenges you've faced in your business? And you said you started the business during COVID?
I did. So, I've always loved to cook. Once I met my husband is when I really started, I had the freedom of my own kitchen to be creative and figure things out. My mother was OCD clean, so the kitchen was off limits at her house or my house growing up.
Oh, wait, hold on. This is so interesting. So if your mother, was she the one doing the cooking when you were growing up? And was anybody else allowed in the kitchen?
I was allowed to do dishes after dinner.
That is
and clean the
fascinating.
counters.
Okay, I have heard other people say this, including my husband, who's one of 4 boys. Like the older 2 kind of learned to cook, but the younger 2, their grandmother did not want them in the kitchen. And to be fair, as a parent, it's kind of easier to just do it all yourself, especially when they're young and they're making a mess. But what would be your message, before we go back to my other question, what would be your message to, another Cuban mom out there whose kids want to help, but it's like, I just got to get this dinner on the table?
It's funny you asked me that. On Domestic Gourmet, every single one of my recipe cards incorporate, like at the very end, notes on how to include your children of all ages in the cooking process. Because during COVID, we were all home, giving them little tasks that they're able to do that do take a long time, but giving them their own space to do that, whether it's at the kitchen table or at the counter, where they're not in your way, but they're still helping and they're still participating.
Oh, I love that. And it kind of goes along with what we were talking about earlier with speaking your native language at home, because you have to get them while they're interested, or they grow up and they say, man, I wish I could speak Spanish. I wish I could cook. Okay, that was a little detour, but I think it was worth it because that's really good to know. So the question was, what were some of the biggest challenges you faced in starting the business?
The biggest challenge I faced was starting the CPG. I was 40 years old, had 3 little kids. I was told the course was super easy, but it wasn't. It was learning biochemistry and learning, how to basically prevent foodborne illness and not hurt people. That was all the math and the science was really, really hard for me. That's never been my strong suit. I've been a writer. I like the arts, but that was very hard. That was the hardest thing I've ever done.
Wow. You should be really proud of yourself. You're the total package. I mean, she's creative, she's gorgeous, she's smart, amazing. I just love it. All right, let's talk about what's in your kitchen.
Okay.
What are the pantry staples?
Oh my
probably
gosh.
A lot of your own products.
Yeah. So my it's funny that you say that because yesterday I was drying out a chicken for a couple days. If you don't do that, get a whole chicken, dry it out before you season it, and it soaks up all those juices. It will create the juiciest chicken.
How do you dry it out?
This one was spatchcocked. I put it on a rack on a pan in the fridge.
Okay.
Just let it dry, literally dry out. The skin will peel away, and then you could really, like, all the herbs, or if you want to do a compound butter, it sticks. So if you ever tried to do that with a regular chicken without drying it out, everything slides everywhere. Nothing sticks. Whereas when you do it this way, it absorbs all that flavor, and it really does create the juiciest chicken. I do it with my turkey too. So yesterday my husband prepared it for us, and it was my annatto oil and my sazon and adobo, which are coming out in the fall. And that was it. And then I just put potatoes on the bottom to soak up all those flavors. That is a killer dinner.
Wow.
Yeah.
Easy cleanup too, probably.
Yeah, one pan.
Yes.
In the oven, so that you don't even have to wipe down the stove.
Okay. Somebody listening probably orders takeout twice a day and hasn't turned on their oven, is probably storing shoes in their oven right now. So how can somebody get started on the journey to becoming a domestic gourmet?
Think about one food that you absolutely love. You always thought you couldn't learn. Figure out how to make it. For me, that was gnocchi. Oh my God. Am I a sucker for gnocchi with the gorgonzola cream sauce? And that was a dish that I always went to this one place called Vincenzo's to eat. And I thought I could never make this at home. Now, bring on the pandemic, I'm growing potatoes. I've got a garden and a lot of time. Gnocchi was super easy to make. Once you make something you don't think that you could make, the world is your oyster. And everything else is easy after that.
Wow, that's so good. I can remember going to this farmer's market and buying vegan pesto, which I still support the farmer's market. But I bought it all the time because I thought I could never make this. I've made it so many times. I made it last night.
You just made it on your social media.
I grew my own basil, and then I made the vegan pesto. And you're right, you feel like a superhero.
Yes.
Yes. Oh, I love that. Okay, so we talked about a couple of the staples. Are there any others that you always have? Or
rice.
Oh, okay. Do you buy the big bag of rice?
25 pounds.
Oh my gosh.
Costco.
That's your workout.
That doesn't last long in my house. You know, we are a Spanish household. Rice and beans is on the rotation every single week.
I never get sick of rice and beans.
No.
Okay, so you've got your domestic gourmet products.
Yes.
You've got your rice.
Yes.
Anything else? What about like fridge staples?
I have sourdough and the discard because I use both.
You make your own sourdough? Mm-hmm. Oh, you're one of those. You are a domestic.
It started all because of COVID. It was the quarantini. You remember? I don't know if you heard about that, but look up quarantini starter. It was this guy, Andrew, who used to work for King Arthur, and he taught everyone during the pandemic how to make it with just like a tablespoon of flour. So very minimal, you know, when the stores had nothing. Anyway, I stuck with it. His name is Panzon. He's 5 years old.
He's your fourth child.
Yeah.
Too funny. Okay, I want to get your take on seed oils.
Oh, I'm so glad you brought this up. Okay. So one of the reasons why I pivoted to CPG is because I battle stage 4 endometriosis. And, I always get like a couple years in between surgeries, but I have one of the most aggressive forms of endo that attacks every organ in my body. So I started really being careful with what I put into my body because endometriosis grows and spreads reminiscent of a cancer, even though it's not cancer, but it does grow and spread and like that. Then 3 years ago, when I had my last surgery, I learned about the anti-inflammatory diet and how that can help also with my symptoms. So when it came time to making my annatto oil, it was important that I chose an oil that didn't need to be in a green bottle, right? Because you want to see the gorgeous red color, had to be shelf stable, had to be anti-inflammatory. And that is when I found and decided upon organic high oleic sunflower oil, right? So they said it was anti-inflammatory. It's good for your heart health. I mean, all these benefits. I make it to market. I remember it was the first store that I went to and they were like, "Is this a seed oil?" And I was like, "Well, it's sunflower oil." They were like, "We can't carry that." I'm like, "Why not?" And it was because of all this rhetoric. It's marketing and I know marketing. So I'm like, okay, but listen, there is a difference with everything on the market. Number one, seed oils are most often used in junk food, fast food, ultra-processed foods, right? So recently, I started seeing a lot of articles from Stanford Medical, Harvard Medical, Johns Hopkins coming out saying, hey, listen, are seed oils really bad for you?
What is a seed oil?
A seed oil is basically an oil that is processed from seeds like safflower, sunflower, vegetable oil. It's a vegetable oil, okay? Most often, they're processed using a chemical called hexane, which is toxic, okay? By the time the processing is done, most of the hexane is gone. And then once you heat up your oil, all of the hexane should have evaporated. Plus, nobody consumes that much oil for it to even be, a health risk to you. However, organic oils, especially high oleic, do not use that chemical. They're organic. So that's not even in the equation. But as a small business, you have that headline and it automatically becomes a hurdle that I have to get over.
Yeah, you got to educate people. We had dietitian Deanna Wolf on last season, and she talked about these sort of scare tactics or different trends.
It's marketing. And let me tell you, we used to use animal fats. And they're like, oh, well, animal fat's not healthy for you. So now we moved to vegetable oils, right? And now, it is true. Like a seed oil is healthier for you than lard or coconut oil. And the high oleic sunflower oil is actually just as healthy as olive oil.
Everybody's grandma had that can of lard.
I still do.
Oh, I love it. So what is...
You put a tablespoon of that in some white rice and honey.
That's dinner. What is annatto oil exactly?
So annatto oil is made from the annatto seeds. So there's a pod, and inside this red pod are lots of little red seeds. And we infuse a neutral oil, and you extract, it's a very mild, earthy flavor with a lot of color. It's what's used to dye yellow rice, okay? Think of annatto oil as saffron, but it's grown closer to home. When I was living in Spain, saffron was super cheap, a couple euros, right? Here, you pay an arm and a leg. Why? Because you've got packaging, you've got airfare, you've got freight, and it has to travel half the world to get here. Annatto oil is grown organically, naturally in South America.
Oh, dang it. I went to Spain like a year and a half
islands,
ago.
In the Caribbean too. It grows there too.
Okay, I should have stocked up on saffron when I was in Spain. Wow, this is fascinating. Is there anything else we didn't talk about that you want to talk about? What's next for the domestic gourmet?
I'm really excited about my spices. So let me tell you, whenever I have these ideas, I got to figure out how to do it. So I am a home gardener. I care about the environment. And I figured out how to develop spice packaging that is compostable, biodegradable, and recyclable. It's made out of birch wood. And it looks like cardboard, but it's lined with birch wood, so it's moisture resistant. But I thought to myself, I don't want to come out with plastic. I don't want to come out with glass. How often are you replacing your garlic powder or your salt, or you know what I mean? Like, we go through so much.
Yeah, I just bought more yesterday, garlic powder.
And you never save those bottles to reuse them, right? I have 50 in my pantry at least.
I know. It's hard to think of what to do with them. I mean, you could put like safety pins or something. Or if I'm taking my lunch, like say my daughter has a volleyball tournament, I'll take my lunch and I'll put like salad dressing in one, but I'm still throwing it away. So I'm using it twice.
We go through so many of them. I didn't want to contribute to that. So, and it is gorgeous because since it is cardboard, you could really put really pretty artwork on it. Also, like everything else, it's made from scratch. So I support our, Florida farmers. I get my onions from them. I get my garlic from them, and I take it back to the manufacturing kitchen and I dehydrate them fresh.
Wow.
And then I mix it, and it's awesome.
I can't wait to see it. Okay, I said that was my last question, but you walked in here looking like a movie star. I mean, even your Stanley is gorgeous. It's like a lilac color, and it has these pink and white flowers on it. And everything you do has like a level of artistry to it. Because yes, I'm sure the food is amazing, but the presentation is unmatched. So can you just talk about why that's important to you?
We always take everything in with our eyes first. You eat with your eyes, you judge people with your eyes. Like that whole first impression means everything. And as a little fish in a big pond, I need to make a splash. But also I like pretty things.
Ooh, you're making a big splash. I love it. Thank you so much for coming.
Thank you for having me. This has been such an honor to be here.
Ciji Castro is founder and executive chef of Domestic Gourmet. She shared her recipe for quick and easy Puerto Rican picadillo, huepa, and you'll find that recipe on our website, thezestpodcast.com. I'm Dalia Colon. I produce The Zest with Andrew Lucas and Alexandria Ebron. The Zest is a production of WUSF. Copyright 2025, part of the NPR network.